This episode of Fak'n Tired is brought to you by the free Toxicity Profile Analysis. Get validation now at coachingwithdrheidi.com. You're listening to Fak'n Tired, where we stop pretending and start just being. I want to know, are you as exhausted as I was? I'm Dr. Heidi, also the host of It's Not Normal, It's Toxic, but I created this space especially for your second phase. You did it. You survived. But your body and mind are stuck running in this frantic, play it safe no matter what mode. That constant effort to fake it, hide your feelings, and hope for no conflict will eventually catch up to you. And when it does, it's no faking fun. At least it wasn't for me. Here on Fak'n Tired, we expose the residual internal changes that are left inside you by toxic relationships. Behaviors and reactions that you may not even realize are leftover effects can surface even years later. If you find your emotional reactions are either too much or too little, if you're feeling fake and trapped, or if you just can't understand why your healthy relationships are suffering, you belong here. I'm on the same path as you, just a few steps ahead, but together we can figure out that fake behavior and ditch those crazy reflex reactions and learn how to feel for real. Why? Because we're all sick of being fake and tired. Now, enough faking around. Let's roll this episode.
When laying out the plan to move my business forward into the healing realm of the journey, I sent surveys out to many of my former clients. I didn't receive very many of them back, but that was okay, as my goal of the survey was, 1, to get some feedback on me as a supporter, and 2, to make certain that I got the sense that clients felt that they indeed benefited in their goals for healing. As you may have guessed, Christine, my little homework valedictorian, was the first to send hers back. And since we followed part of her journey in the last episode, I saw it only fitting to spotlight her yet again. Christine, this survey was done some time ago, and I know for a fact that you have already grown even more since then. So as I ask these questions, feel free to add to the answers that you actually put down when I sent the survey out, if something has changed. Okay, so it's kind of a surprise like the last episode. However, she was aware we were doing this. I don't think this one will be as surprising to her as the last one, but we're just going to take our time and go through these. For the listeners, we did in the previous episode the questionnaire that she filled out prior to being accepted into Freedom Me, my exclusive private program. And she was very surprised at some of her answers. This is the survey that was sent to her long after she had completed working with me. So, Christine, when you first talked to me, which was the application call, what was your outlook on your future? How were you feeling the day before we spoke?
So I knew my future would ultimately be okay. I knew that things would work out. However, I knew without an objective assessment from a neutral third party like you, like Dr. Heidi, it may take the rest of my life to feel secure, confident, and validated. I didn't have that long to wait. I knew I had to do something. So the day before we spoke, I was feeling nervous, hoping that, Dr. Heidi would accept me as a client and hopeful about what life would be like after Dr. Heidi worked with me.
So how were you feeling about things right after our first call?
So I was feeling so validated after our first call. My situation that I had been in had become my new normal. I always say it was like being a frog being boiled. You're not knowing you're almost gone until it's too late. Hearing you stop me mid-story during my interview and telling me immediately that you wanted to work with me was extremely validating and comforting. It proved to me that the situation that I had endured over the years really was dysfunctional and not acceptable.
If the above are different in any way, that's the next question, but we're skipping that one because it basically says the same thing. But
Okay.
what was the next thing? What was the thing that made you commit to being an exclusive client of?
So for me, I knew I had to change what I thought was acceptable treatment from a partner. I also had to dig deeper and figure out what inside me was still holding on. Was it hope for change? Was it history? Why? One thought I had was, this is starting to be embarrassing. What am I teaching my kids? Um, I'm I'm put together in my work life at home. Why not with this? My commitment was very strong, and it was really enjoyable because I think I was ready.
What was something that I shared with you that came as a surprise to you?
This one was the flow chart of the toxic personality and how they all act the same way.
Christine loved the flow chart.
I love
Um,
that flow chart. I love it. Dr. Heidi, I
she re-
love the flow chart.
she refers to the flow chart. I developed a flow chart to explain the toxic personality so that you can observe their behavior and validate yourself as you go through it. And um, Christine was one of the ones that really felt that the flow chart helped her. That's something that you can get through a validation session or through working with me. The next question was, what is something you gained from working together that you feel will be valuable to you for the rest of your life, and why?
So my answer was the awareness that there are so many people out there who endure traumatic and unacceptable behaviors from partners, far worse than what I've endured. Yet the impact is real and can't be compared to others. Each person, including me, has to find their inner strength. And Dr. Heidi helped me define who I am and find my strength. And last but not least, I have made a lifelong friend in Dr. Heidi.
That is true. And now we
It
get
is
to do
true.
this
I know.
together. Did you find the confusion clearing as we moved forward in the program? And if you can give an example of how.
So I started with the 3-hour validation session, and that was critical for me. It gave me a foundation on which to base my any interaction I had with any person. Um, if it didn't feel right or smell right, I could run it through the flow chart because that was always a big thing you taught me. Run that through the flow chart, and what do you see? So I could run it through the flowchart and I could name it. That awareness allowed me to think about a situation very objectively instead of emotionally. So basically, I have this set of rules in this flowchart, and I start here and I end here, and then I learn something. So that was huge for me. And then the neuropathway discussions helped me tremendously. The templates we create in our brains and why we create them was fascinating.
Did you find that a decision came out of our work together? And do you believe that it was the best decision for you?
Yes. So I guess I'd say I was in a good position coming into this work because I had already, had no contact, broken ties. So that allowed me to focus on me instead of spending my time with you focusing on how to break contact. Um, so what happened as a result of my work with Dr. Heidi was that I solidified my position without my formers in my life. So there was no noise. Um, I knew that no contact was the right thing to do now and in the future. And I also gained the strength to not respond to the attempts to communicate with me. That was huge for me because previously I would always respond, foolishly thinking that I could, reason with someone or come to an understanding. And so that part was very freeing for me.
That is freeing. And it's one of those things that you don't really feel like you have permission to just go no contact. And then when you finally do, almost everybody wishes that they would have done it sooner. Did the confidence you had in yourself change through the months we had our scheduled sessions?
So my confidence changed, definitely. Um, I'm a very literal person. I work in a field where I have a lot of technical interpretation, and this coaching with you gave me a formula to apply to others, and gave me definitive goals for myself. So it defined who I am, and it put words to the person, me, my goals, words that resonated with me, my priorities were defined. The scheduled sessions minimized my confusion about me, about my past, about my relationships. I could tell Dr. Heidi how I was feeling, and she could tell me why. So that was impactful and incredible for me.
Now, were there times as we were working together that you thought I would be upset or disappointed in you?
So this is one of my favorite questions because you were so good at this. You always made me feel accepted. So I never once thought that, Dr. Heidi would be upset or disappointed in me. And you actually went out of your way to to reassure me of that. Hey, you can do whatever you want and I'm still going to be here for you. Um so not once did I ever think you would be upset or disappointed. I think you were just so good at preemptively and proactively telling me that you would never be disappointed that I just, believed it from the beginning.
The reason I put that question in there is we feel like we disappoint so many people over and over and over. And so I want to make sure that I'm just not another one that people feel like, "Oh my gosh, she told me to do this and I did something different and now she's going to be mad." So that is a huge valuable question for me to know that I have succeeded in making you feel accepted no matter what choices or how many times you have to touch the hot burner before you realize, "Ooh, that's hot."
Yeah. No, you did an amazing job at that.
Have you found some peace? And if you have, what does it look like? What does it feel like? How could someone from the outside recognize that you have more peace in your life?
So my answer in this evaluation was I found peace, confidence, and vision. The big indicator that I have peace and balance was the wagon wheel exercise that we did. I first did this exercise, and a very unbalanced wheel resulted. Um, it wasn't going to roll anywhere because the idea is that you're you actually have a wheel and it's shaped like a circle, so it rolls forward. And mine was shaped like something that was not going to move anywhere. Um, the second time I did it, because we repeated that exercise after, I don't know, a few months maybe, um, I had scores in my wagon wheel that proved that I was not just faking it, and that I really had made progress and impacted areas of my life that I set out to impact. Because it really did, it identified, here's here's where I'm kind of falling short in these areas, and I need to maybe not try as hard in the ones I'm scoring really high in and put a little more effort into the ones I'm falling short in and have more of a balanced wheel.
Mhm. And we could talk about that wheel more. I redo the wheel myself between Christmas and New Year's every year. So my newly done wheel is actually sitting right next to me, and I have to do the next steps on it. But that wheel does make a huge impact because it's a visualized, it's visual, so you can see it. Now, as I have always said, if something is frightening, just have a plan. Then all you have to do is follow the plan. What is your plan for yourself moving forward, knowing that your personality is one that will attract other ones that are just like the ones that you've worked so hard to get away from?
So this was a very necessary realization for me and a very difficult one. We tend to revert back to our behaviors and patterns, and my biggest takeaway on this is to trust my gut. So, my gut is correct. When we are in it, our mind only lets us think about, what we might lose if we get out of it. We don't typically think about what we will gain by moving on. Um, if I knew then what I know now, I would have left so much sooner because the other side is peaceful and calm and happy and invigorating. And I wish I hadn't waited so long to start my life. We can all do this and we should.
I've actually really used that part of your survey. I might have even mentioned it on a podcast, but I've used it with clients. We only look at what we're going to lose if we change something. And it takes the change to make you realize that not everything is a loss. A lot becomes gained from making changes. How would you describe the way that I teach or guide to someone who has never met me?
Dr. Heidi takes an abstract and emotional mindset and feeling and applies a formula to it. It allows, clients to take the emotions out of situations and apply a very objective set of rules to decipher what is really going on as opposed to what the toxic person wants us to think is going on.
Yes, and because we have this podcast, our mind still tends to allow us to think something is going on when something really might not be going on. And so when she
Exactly.
says the way I teach helps you take the emotion out of it, I've had a couple times over the last 2 weeks over the holidays where I wish I was better at taking the emotion out of things because, the holidays they can be triggering for lack of a better word. And, um, to be able to take the emotion out really helps in the future residual survival reactions that we have. Did you ever find it hard to trust me? And did you believe what I was teaching? Did you feel like your safety was always my priority?
So I think in one of the previous episodes, we talked about how I found you and that, I was on the treadmill and when I listened to one of your podcasts, I just about fell off the treadmill because I was so shocked at how applicable it was to my life. So I had listened to your podcast before I reached out. I binged all of them. And then, so I kind of already felt like I knew how open you were and how real you were. Safety was always the number one priority. I never doubted that. That was, it was safety first. My situation was fairly safe. So, but I always knew that that's how you felt.
What is the number one thing that helped you the most during the short time we spent together?
Yeah, I keep going back to the basis of the toxic personality, the flowchart. Um, Also, the revelation this was great. It was that I don't choose them; they find me. That was a light bulb moment for me.
What was the very best thing about working with me?
Getting my life back, being a good example for my kids, um, having no contact, blocking people that I didn't need to have contact with anymore. Um, I don't think I would have had the strength to do that. You helped me find myself, and in the process, I made a friend in you. And although we are geographically apart, I consider you my friend for life.
Yes, I very much agree, and I have stayed in contact with many, many of my former clients. How likely are you to recommend the exclusive Freedom Me program to another who might be walking a similar path?
100% likely. The program is essential. The approach, the curriculum, the support, all indicators of success. People need to hear this. They need to listen to the podcasts, but the coaching program solidifies everything and gives you the one-to-one attention to combat all the insecurities that will inevitably creep up on us and potentially derail our progress.
Yes, if I could tell people how many times I've been derailed. Um, Sometimes it's a big derail, sometimes it's a smaller derail. Sometimes I wish it was just a big derail, all the way derailed, because we tend to get very tired when we're dealing with the residual effects because we just want to be back to normal. And sometimes the derailing gets very monotonous. But that's what Fake and Tired is all about. So now here we are. And we're on to a new set of much needed skills that were adopted when we were in unhealthy environments, but are no longer what is best for us. Do you know the type of things that I'm talking about, Christine?
Yep, I do.
And when did you realize that although you were out of things, there were times when things still felt really difficult?
I'd say, probably right away, because as things happen in life, you kind of, like I said in I think one of my answers, you revert back to, I guess, what was comfortable in terms of, um, you know, where our mind goes to make sense of something. So, in that way, it could happen at any time.
I think our mind goes certain places because it knows how to handle certain situations and is not sure how to handle other ones.
Hmm.
So the brain is a big deal, and it can trick us into believing something is happening when it's not. Do you remember, just for an instance or for an example of, what made you feel like, "Why am I even trying?"
I
Like,
had a
can you think of an
few.
example where you felt like, "Oh my gosh, why am I thinking this? Why am I overreacting? Why am I overthinking? Why am I overworrying? Why do I wanna crawl in a hole?" Those type of things. Do you remember an instance when anything like that happened? After you did all
After
this
our program.
self-discovery and we were all excited about the new life, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, one day you were like, "Oh."
Yeah, I probably remember a few things like that, but in the to keep it general, I'd say that if I put a lot of effort into something and I felt like, um the reaction wasn't commensurate with the effort, then I was like, why do I even try?
Mhm.
But,
And
that
and
happened quite a bit in various, various relationships and friendships and things like that. So, I could tell that I would go down that path, but the way I would correct it was to say to myself, "No, I did this for me, not for someone else or for someone else's reaction."
yeah, and just to follow up on that, when we are in unhealthy situations, we seek approval, because that feels good. You know,
Right.
everyone says they're on the treadmill. It doesn't matter what they do, it's never right. So we're continually overdoing and, overperforming in hoping that someone will accept us. And that works okay within a toxic relationship. And when you get out, unless we change our expectations, we're going to continually still feel like we're unaccepted. And that's just one example. Um, you sent me an email with a few things that you noticed about the way you responded and reacted, and thoughts that you had when you were like thrown into just regular life situations. And I'm just going to read that list.
Okay.
Not really being able to be your true self when other people were around, not expressing how you really feel for fear of how other people would react or how other people would take you, not allowing too much happiness, or not allowing yourself to be upset
Well, I'm good at
for
that. I'm good at that one.
yes,
Not
we're
allowing
never
yourself to be upset. Just sweep that under the rug.
yes, no negative emotions, because if you think back when you're in those type of situations, you're not allowed to be mad, you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to be sad. So we get very programmed with we have to pretend we're positive and happy all the time.
Mhm.
And we don't want ourselves to feel happiness because it never really lasted very long. So we're very gun shy of indulging in a happy moment. Um, you found that you were pulling the "I have to be perfect" card a lot in all the different areas, worrying that you would mess up, not asking for help when you knew you could use it, staying very superficial in conversations and in relationships, not allowing yourself to let anything that would make you vulnerable out. And those are all of the things that we wanna talk about on this podcast moving forward because we're doing all that all of the time. It's no wonder we're fake and tired. Now, unlike me, you saw these behaviors very soon after we worked together. And maybe that's because, we had spoke about what you were gonna expect, but even still, these engraved safety reflexes were very present when danger no longer was.
Mhm.
And you would pinpoint that, and usually what we do is we come down on ourselves because now we should be acting normal. How come we can't function? We're out of that, they're gone, they're in the past. We're on to a new relationship, or we're on to new friendships, or we're on to this new chapter in our life, and it can become very defeating for ourselves to now not know really how to function in a normal, let's just say, relationship.
Mhm.
Now, because we have both learned that we can't fight these things, believe me, I've been fighting them for several years, thinking that I could fix it. We can't hide them because we try to hide them, and guess what's going to pop out when we least need it to, or when we least expect it? It's going to be one of those reactions that make us not understandable to people. Um, people didn't understand our situations when we were in it, and when you carry the residual effects and the survival mode behavior, people don't understand that either. I say we can't hide them and we can't fix them, but understanding where they came from has helped me accept the fact that they are part of me, and with that, they're still gonna pop up. I mean, I used to just beat myself up when one of my survival mechanisms would kick in, 'cause it would be humiliating. And now I just know we have to be able to go, "Oh, well, that happened. I'll try to stop it or have a plan for that the next time." Um Up till the day I asked Christine to be the co-host and threw that idea at her, we would talk about once a month. And every time I would have some story because I knew would understand if I was dealing with some of this residual effect, or if I was worried about something, or if I was all wound up inside over absolutely nothing. You can tell yourself it's nothing, but then you find yourself worrying about it for the next 48 hours. But every time I had a story to tell her, she would have one to tell me back. And many times it was about the same reaction. So we understand it, and we can laugh at ourselves, we can support each other, but the people that are closest to us don't understand it. And they don't always laugh at our behaviors because sometimes our behaviors can be hurtful to the people around us. But when we can share this humiliation or these embarrassing moments or these stressful, how do I handle this? When we could share it with each other, it seemed like the load would get way lighter. Because the minute I would hear that you, Christine, were having the same type of thing, it made me feel not so alone. And,
Mhm.
this podcast is for the people who are feeling like that. You're not the only one that is feeling fake and tired. There are so many people that are experiencing the same thing. And the mission of this podcast is the same mission that Coaching with Dr. Heidi has stood behind for nearly a decade. And that's to bring hope, healing, and freedom to those whose lives have been affected by toxic relationships and emotional abuse, both in and beyond the relationship. If you are exhausted from the life the toxic relationship has handed you, join us here where we are going to discuss the things that have been making you so fake and tired. Now, on the next episodes that'll be following this one, Christina and I are going to be focusing on these individual behaviors that rear their ugly little heads when we least expect it. And as it will be confirmed in season 2, these are very common behaviors across the board for those who have been in controlling, dangerous, and manipulative environments. Now, before we go, we decided that as you get to know us, we don't know everything about each other, and we definitely don't know everything about everything. So in each episode, we want to be able to add a little tidbit of information just for fun. So it's time for our first Did You Fake and Know? Christine, did you fake and know that the song Vindicated by Dashboard Confessions was popular around the time that I left my former? Now I have 2 house cats, one named Vindy and the other named Kate, in honor of my intuition being correct from the beginning and being vindicated in what I felt had been going on all along.
I did not know that that's why you named them Vindy and Kate. That's a good one.
Yes.
That's a really
I
good one.
wanted to get a third one and name it Ed so I could have Vindicate Ed, but my husband said I could only have 2 in the house. So Ed lives in the barn and monitors the mice.
I love it. I love it. Okay, is it my turn? Did you fake and know that I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't know it, that bananas are berries, but strawberries are not?
I did not know that.
I know. Now, don't ask me to go into why, but you can Google it.
Okay,
It's
I was gonna ask you why, but I won't. That'll
don't even
make the
ask me. It has to
listeners.
do with ovaries and things like that. So
Okay, so Christine, thanks for sharing your survey and sharing the fact that we're all struggling. It's just what we do, right?
yep.
So we will see you all back here in a couple weeks when we start really digging into the emotional and internal wreckage that is left that you may not even realize is from the relationship that you may have experienced.
You hear me talk about the effort it takes to just keep faking it. If you want to stop this feeling of treading water and are ready for a change, my most comprehensive program is for you. I offer Freedom Me, my exclusive 5-month private one-on-one guidance program. This isn't a quick fix. In fact, we're not fixing anything because there's nothing wrong with you. Rather, this program is created for you to understand yourself, accept yourself, and it gives you control over what has felt so out of control for years because of your past. It's a dedicated partnership with weekly calls, interaction between calls, and access to the exclusive private support group. We address the toxic teardown head on, giving you the time and the support that has been difficult to find. If you're ready for sustained focus and a clear path, you can apply to become an exclusive Freedom Me client at coachingwithdrheidi.com.